What's up, everybody? It's your guy, Ike Jones. We are here live from Bridgestone Arena, Lobtown, the Auburn Express, powered by the War Report, brought to you today by the folks at BetUS. It's Auburn. It's Tennessee. We're here. SEC semifinals. Let's do it.
The Auburn Express. You are now listening to The War Report, Longtown Podcast. With your boy, Ike Jones.
What's up, everybody? We're here, the Lobtown Auburn Express, Auburn versus Tennessee, live at Bridgestone Arena. Make sure you go ahead and share this content with somebody out there to let them know we are going to take you up until about 10 minutes to tip off. We got 43 minutes on the clock here until the scheduled tip off of Auburn versus Tennessee SEC semifinals. Auburn is out here warming up right now. Tennessee is about to take the court to start their warm-ups as well. Hopefully everybody is having a good Saturday. If you are in the path of these dangerous storms, then please stay safe. Hopefully the weather doesn't get too bad wherever you are, and you'll get an opportunity to watch some good college basketball today. Again, I appreciate everybody who's hopping in here with me before we get into this game. Definitely want to talk about yesterday's game. We had a reaction show yesterday. Auburn took on Ole Miss, and it wasn't pretty at times, specifically on the offensive end. The turnovers, 15 turnovers in the game. Just some really sloppy execution on offense. Auburn has to avoid that against a Tennessee team that is one of the best defensive teams in the country. You don't have the luxury of coming out and being sloppy offensively. As far as defensive adjusted efficiency, Bartorvik has Tennessee as the number 3 team. Effective field goal percentage defense, they are the best in the country. Now, they aren't a team that turns you over a lot. What they do is they lock you up and make it difficult for you to get into your stuff, right? Very similar teams, Auburn and Tennessee, on the defensive side of the basketball in that regard. What they do really well is offensive rebounds, right? They are going to be tenacious on the glass, and that's something that Auburn has struggled with teams giving up offensive rebounds. When we take a look at the statistical analysis for this team's head-to-head Auburn versus Tennessee, of course, Auburn is the leader in points per game, a little bit better on the offensive end than Tennessee is holistically. Tennessee a little bit better on the defensive end by about 9 points per game. They hold opponents to 61.9 points per game. Field goal percentage in favor of Auburn, 48.4 to 45.4. Free throw percentage, Auburn is slightly better on the free throw line. This is going to be an important game for free throws for sure. If this game plays out the way like it did in Neville Arena, then this is going to be a situation where you're going to have to make your free throws in this game. Rebounds per game, slight edge to Auburn, honestly, when you look at statistics over the year. But when you get into SEC tape play, Tennessee has been the better team on the glass, particularly on the offensive glass. Assists per game slightly in favor of Auburn. This is a Tennessee team that will share the basketball quite a bit. Their floor general, of course, being Zakai Ziegler, and he is a guy that is out there making sure to get other people involved. I talked about this in the first Tennessee matchup. You need to turn Zakai Ziegler into a scorer, not a facilitator, and make sure that he's not getting your guards in foul trouble. Solid defense on him, but make him score the basketball so that he's not getting other people involved. From a block standpoint, Auburn with the edge. Auburn, one of the better shot blocking teams in the country. Steals perspective, it is dead even. Again, these teams aren't teams that are going to go out here and block a lot. Aren't going to turn you over a lot as far as getting steals. What they do is they make you have bad possessions and shoot low percentages. So, again, Auburn's got their work cut out for them, of course, in this game versus a tough Tennessee team. This is going to be a quasi-home game for Tennessee. The Tennessee crowd turned out in droves yesterday to see them take on Texas yesterday. I expect a good amount of Auburn fans in the building. There are going to be a good bit of Bama fans in the building, of course, waiting for that game to start later on. So there's going to be some hate watchers as well as Tennessee fans out here in the building. So we will see how it goes from a fan perspective. It's a little early, so people are still filing in here. The weather's bad out there, so commute's probably a little nasty out there for a lot of people as well. Some people probably are refusing to make the drive because of the weather in some areas. So it's going to be interesting to see what the turnout is in the game today. But once again, please go ahead and share the live with somebody. I will take you right up until about 10 minutes till tip off, and then I'm going to turn it over to the guys over at the Up Tempo who are doing the watch party today. So if you aren't subscribed to the Up Tempo podcast, make sure that you subscribe over there, because they will be having your watch party today as I am here at Bridgestone Arena. But again, thank you to everybody who is in here. When we talk about the last game, I mentioned it kind of briefly, but just looking at the last matchup, Auburn versus Tennessee. Of course, Auburn won that game 51-50 at Auburn. Auburn. This is the thing. When you look at the offensive statistics, Tennessee had shot a better percentage than Auburn from the field. Tennessee shot slightly better. Both teams shot abysmally from three, but Tennessee shot slightly better from three. Free throw percentage, Tennessee shot better. Rebounding, Auburn had the edge, and that's what they're going to have to do again in this game. Is they're going to have to rebound their misses, particularly on the offensive board. Offensive boards. Auburn had 16 to Tennessee's 10. That line right there was a big reason why Auburn was able to walk away with a close victory. Handling the boards, particularly on the offensive glass, to get themselves additional possessions against this tough Tennessee defense. And then assist to turnovers. It was dead even for Auburn at 11 to 11. Tennessee had slightly more turnovers than they had assists in that game. Those two lines are the reason why Auburn won: offensive boards and assist to turnover. Auburn has been a little sloppy with the basketball these last couple of games. 15 turnovers yesterday against an Ole Miss team that's what they do, is they turn you over. Again, Tennessee's a different kind of defense. They don't really function off of turnovers, but Auburn's got to be a lot more crisp in their execution, because Tennessee will absolutely take it away if you give it to them, right? So it's going to be force the shooters for Tennessee off the three-point line. There's not a lot of them for them, right? They've got Chaz Lanier and they've got Gainey, who really are three-point shooters. And then you can get a little bit from Ziegler out there as well. Ivisic can step out and shoot a little bit. So just recognizing who the shooters are when they catch it and forcing them off the three-point line, and then forcing them to take tough twos without fouling. Dylan Cardwell, Shaney Johnson, the guys who control the paint for Auburn, Janai Broome, they're going to have a stellar non-foul game in this one, meaning they can't be sidelined because they've got 2 fouls early in the first half, 3-4 fouls early in the second half. They need to be on the floor for Auburn to be effective in this one, because Tennessee is going to try to dominate the interior by making sure that they clamp down on that and force Auburn to really shoot contested threes. This is a game where you need Miles Kelly, Tahad Pettiford, Denver Jones to shoot a healthy percentage. They don't have to knock down a bunch of threes. Now, it's going to be helpful if they shoot a bunch of them, but they need to shoot a good percentage from three. I think Auburn really needs to shoot above 40% from three in this game to be able to be effective in this one. Again, last game versus Tennessee, both teams sub 20%. That can't be a repeat for Auburn to get a victory in this one, especially in an environment that's not going to be as hospitable as it is in Neville Arena. Now, having said all of those things, Auburn has this year played better away from Neville Arena than they have played at home, and they've shot the ball better on the road than they have at home. Despite the loss to Texas A&M, they still shot a healthy percentage from three and knocked down a good amount of threes in that game. It was the glass that killed them. Auburn's going to have to make sure that they continue to shoot the way that they have away from Neville Arena and make sure that they're doing a better job on the boards. The interior points in this game are going to be crucial for both of these teams. Again, I know there's a lot of people who are dealing with weather situations out there across the state of Alabama, Tennessee, and Mississippi, which is a large portion of the viewing audience for what we have going on here. But hopefully everybody is doing well, staying safe. I don't know what the power situation is for folks out there, and I don't know how many people are already tuned in to coverage on this game, but I appreciate those of you who have jumped in here with us. Please go ahead and share this content with somebody out there on social media. Let them know that we are live right now talking about this game. Again, both teams are out here warming up right now. Auburn has been out here warming up really for the better part of an hour, getting shots up, doing stretching and things of that nature. Tennessee just got out here for their first portion of warm-ups. So we will see how things progress with these guys in this game. Let's take a look over here. And just as you guys know, we are sponsored by the good folks over at Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy has the props for this game, or the projections, I should say, for who is going to be doing what in this game. And, the projections for some of these guys for Auburn look like they need to be out here scoring some points. Now, Auburn is favored in this game by 5.5 points, according to Vegas. And they need to be able to, again, do a really good job on the boards to be able to do that. So I would be closely watching things like the projections for guard rebounds in this game for Auburn, and then the projections for turnovers for folks like Denver Jones, Tahad Pettiford, Chad Baker Mazzara, guys who are going to be handling the ball primarily. So if you go over there and you use code RAPPORT, you get to up $1,000 on your first deposit for extra cash that you can use towards future projections and cards that you want to put in place. So make sure that you head over there and do that. Want to get over here into the comment section. A couple of people jumping in and commenting. Ben Bloodworth says, War Eagle, appreciate you. Carmack with a couple of Eagles there. War Eagle to you too. And B. Allen, War Eagle to you. Spicy asked a question here, says, Ike, what player is your X factor today? Mine is Chaney. I've got two of them here for you. Chaney Johnson is on my list. Miles Kelly is on my list. Those two guys I think are going to have to be Chaney Johnson is going to have to be effective in this game at the mid-range more than he has been in the last couple of games. He just hasn't had the rhythm in both his execution and ball handling and in just being able to make that little float shot that he had gotten so adept at in the middle portion of the SEC season. He needs to get back into form with that because Tennessee is going to be a team that's going to challenge you at the rim, and he's got the physicality to be able to bang inside and get boards. Now, he did some very some of the intangible things in that last game versus Ole Miss. It's not going to show up on the sheet as far as hustle plays and rebounds that he was able to execute, but he's got to be a factor offensively. Definitely needs to be a factor again on the boards in this game. I think 7+ boards in this game is what Chaney Johnson's going to need to do. He's got to stay out of foul trouble to do that. And the other guy I mentioned is Miles Kelly. Miles Kelly's got to shoot a healthy percentage from three. We need a vintage Kentucky type Miles Kelly game in order to be able to get. I won't say Kentucky because he had 10 threes in that game. But I think you're going to need 3 or 4 3-pointers from Miles Kelly in this game. He's going to need to shoot about 40% of whatever threes that he puts up in this game. And he's going to have to make some shots that are not threes. He's going to be able to have to finish around the rim, get into his mid-range a little bit better than he has been. Did a decent job of at least attacking that versus Ole Miss. Needs to finish at a higher proficiency in this game than he did versus Alabama for sure and versus Texas A&M. Texas A&M, a horrible game. We don't need to see the Texas A&M version of Miles Kelly in this one. Professor Vader says, War Eagle fam, stay safe today. Hope you all can enjoy the game, and luck favors Auburn today. Hopefully we will see a good game from Auburn. You stay safe wherever you are as well. See what else we hear. Cam says, need Dylan to give 17 good minutes, 8 points, 9 rebounds, 2 blocks. That'd be a great game from Dylan Cardwell if he had 8 points and 9 rebounds. Dylan, again, is a guy who controls the paint for Auburn. The whistle is going to be a big thing for Dylan Cardwell because he's a physical guy, right? He initiates contact a lot. And if they're calling the game tight and evenly, now because Tennessee initiates a lot of contact as well, if they're calling the game tight and evenly, then that takes guys like Dylan Cardwell out of the game. But if it's even, then hopefully Tennessee gets those same kinds of calls because this is a kind of game that Dylan Cardwell likes to play in, a physical game, but he can't get taken out of that game with silly fouls. And sometimes he gets a couple of cheap ones out there by just doing a little too much. So hopefully he'll have a good opportunity to get out here and make himself a presence in this game and stay available in this game. Dan says, good take on Chaney and Miles as players to watch. I think they're going to be crucial, man, because of, again, the way that Tennessee guards, you need to be able to stretch that defense and make them have to defend 28 to more outside of that paint. And if you're able to do that, when you now get that action with with Miles coming off of those pin down screens and curling around, if they extend that defense out top, you get a quick, ghost screen off of that. You get a slip for one of your bigs to the hole, and it's less guys there in the paint to be able to guard that. So, or they're going to have to switch that action, which means you get some sort of mismatch. So just recognition of the things that Tennessee's doing, which they've done a great job of adjusting these last couple of games and really finding ways to attack teams specifically. Though they didn't win that Bama game, I like some of the adjustments they made coming out of the half in that game to ways they wanted to attack the team and get themselves back into a game where they could get it into overtime. But Auburn just got to shoot a better percentage. They haven't shot the three well really since the Kentucky game, and they've got to get back into that mode. And again, with Chaney Johnson, he's a guy that, like I said with Dylan Cardwell, physicality is a game that he invites. And he's got to be allowed to be physical, but he's got to be a little bit smarter with his hand placement when he's playing defense, be better with his feet and getting into position a little bit better on defense so that he's putting himself in position to allow the athleticism that he has to take over in this game. So hopefully he'll be in that position. Thomas, good to meet you as well yesterday. JT, good to see you in here, man. Tanisha says, hope that we shut down Meshack and Ziegler. Meshack's not a guy that really offensively that you have to worry about a ton. What he's going to do is he's going to get to the boards. He's going to play really tenacious defense, and he's going to be a pest for him, like in the way that he sets screens and those sorts of things. So that's really what you got to shut down with Meshack. Now, he's going to score points because he's just kind of an activity guy. But he's not going to – if Meshack is a big scorer for you, that means you've done a really good job on the other guys that are the true scorers for this team. Ziegler is a guy that you definitely need to make sure that you keep him out of the paint. And if he does get into the paint, you have to turn him into a tough two maker. And that's the thing. You can't let him be a facilitator. You can't let him be a guy that's getting to the free throw line. So he's got to be able to make tough twos and not get to the free throw line or become a facilitator when he gets into the lane. But your best bet is to keep him out of the lane and keep him as an exterior point guard. Easier said than done. He's very crafty, and he's quick to be able to get to the line. This is another time where, height, just like it was last game versus Murray, is not going to be an issue for a guy like Tahad Pettiford. Now, he's going to be against some very good defensive guards that are going to be pesky. Auburn's done a much better job from their guards of not just giving up, just easy steals in the half court, other than that overtime steal that Tahad Pettiford gave up. He did a pretty good job prior to that, and that had been an issue for him earlier in the season. Denver Jones, the same thing, had been an issue with him earlier in the season. They played a lot better in the middle portions going into that Texas A&M game of not just having those kind of sloppy guard turnovers. They've got to get back into that kind of guard play in this game. Let's see here. The question is, who is going to be the referee for this game? Let's see if we have our stuff yet. Notes say that referee for today's game is Pat Adams, Don Daly, and K.B. Burdette Jr. Referees for today's game for you all. Spicy asks another question. What can Auburn do differently from the last UT game? I think the big thing for Auburn in that game is they just weren't making shots that were makeable for them, right? They missed a lot of shots around the rim, right? They missed a lot of, you've got to take advantage of the opportunities that you have versus Tennessee. You can't miss makeable shots. They're going to force you into enough tough shots and enough shot clock violations that when you get opportunities, you've got to take advantage of them. That's the big thing. You have to shoot a healthier percentage. Again, when we look at last game versus Tennessee, that was a game in which Auburn shot 15% from three. You can't shoot that percentage again in this game. So, and there were makeable three-point shots out there for Auburn to be able to knock down. And then the percentage in the paint wasn't much better. So you've got to shoot a healthier percentage on offense. Defensively, I think you do exactly what you did last game. That's going to be difficult to get your offense revving in that way and not see Tennessee score more points as well. But statistically, you do a better job in Tennessee if you can get over 70 points in the game. When that game creeps under 60, that's the kind of game Tennessee really wants. Unlike it is with Alabama or with a Florida, you really want to be able to turn this into kind of a shootout and push the pace a little bit against Tennessee. Don't go against their set defense. So you need to get out and run a little bit, get into some early offense before they can get set. But don't be sloppy and out of pace. Like, be in a good rhythm. But make sure that you're dictating pace. And Auburn didn't really do a good job of dictating pace in that last game. And again, got to shoot a healthier percentage and knock down the stuff that you have available to you. D-Lev says getting out of this game healthy is my only concern because Tennessee is very physical. Yeah, getting out healthy is going to absolutely be something that Auburn wants to do. Thomas says we don't need a slow start. We are better front runners. Honestly, Auburn has done all types of games this year. They've started slow, come back. They've started fast and given up leads. They've started fast and continued to dominate. They have won all kinds of games this year. So really it's just about making sure. Now, what I will say is the middle five is going to be important for Auburn. That is the close of the half, start of the second half, going to be very important for Auburn in this game because that's where games start to either come back to you or get away from you for Auburn in most of these games. And they've closed halves fairly well in most of the games, and they've closed the game fairly well in most of these games. Coming out of the half, they need to be able to establish themselves really well. So that middle five is going to be super important. Really, the middle eight is what most people say. So the first four of the halves with the middle five, because that's around the breaks that you're going to get from the timeouts from TV. So Auburn's got to do a good job in those situations. Justin says we got to worry about shot selection and crunch time in all caps. Are you yelling that, Justin? Don't forget about Broome took a bad 3-point shot. I don't know which game you're referring to that Broome took a bad 3-point shot. But yes, shot selection is always going to be something that's important. Um, can, Again, I don't really know which particular 3-point shot you're referring to, but I guess you're talking about the Tennessee game where Broome took a bad 3-point shot in that game. I don't know. Maybe so. But yes, shot selection is going to be important, especially against a team that's going to play good defense. You have to make sure that you're producing really good shots versus them taking good shots and getting into a good rhythm offensively. Auburn wasn't very sharp offensively in their execution. Their offensive execution versus Ole Miss yesterday, and that execution's got to get much better versus Tennessee. Like I said earlier, Ole Miss is the team that thrives off of turnovers, and they did a good job of turning Auburn over in the second half of that game. 11 second half turnovers for Auburn, 15 in the game, which means you only turned the ball over 4 times in the first half. You had 11 in the second half. Your offensive execution was not sharp though in the first half, and then when Ole Miss turned the defense up in the second half, they started taking advantage of the sloppy play. So got to be much better in the execution in the half court for Auburn in this game. Chad Baker-Mazar did not have a good game yesterday versus Ole Miss. I expect him to be a little bit better in this game. This is going to be one of those games with the physicality of it, whether or not, there's going to be a narrative about Chad Baker-Mazar staying in the game. He didn't have the issue the first time versus Tennessee. Hopefully it's not going to be an issue this time versus Tennessee. Tennessee is a pesky team defensively, but they're not really a team that goads you, right? Like they don't have guys like they did last year that were really kind of out there to poke at folks during the game as opposed to trying to play just tough defense. So we'll see how that goes for them this one. TK says MK got to get on a heater. I talked about Miles Kelly a little bit earlier in this game. Definitely want to see Miles Kelly play a better game offensively in this one because that's really where he stresses defenses. Is they're going to be aware of him at all times, but he's got to make them pay if they give him an open opportunity. And he didn't do a very good job of that in the first game versus Tennessee. Didn't do a good job of that versus Texas A&M. Had his moments versus Alabama in the second half of that game, but first half he was non-existent offensively. And then yesterday versus Ole Miss, he was kind of intermittent. I think he only made 1 3 in that game. So Miles Kelly, definitely he's due for one of those Miles Kelly multiple 3 games out there. Little play on words here from JJ says Kelly needs to go the extra mile. Dad joke time. JC Chambers jumps in and says Chaney Johnson needs to get him double digits today for us to game. Where has he been? Chaney's been out there again. He's not showing up on the stat sheet as far as points are concerned. Now, again, I talked about this earlier, but Texas A&M game, foul trouble was the issue that you don't see a lot of him out there in that game. The Alabama game, foul trouble was an issue for him in that game. Ole Miss, he was out there for a good bit, and he impacted the game in other ways. He had, I think, 7 rebounds. I'm not looking at the statistics right now, but he was good on the boards. He was good physically in the paint, on defense, not allowing himself to get back down into the paint. So he was a guy who showed up out there in that game. He just didn't have the point production. And to your point, I think that you do need to see Chaney Johnson get more point production in this game. For me, it's not necessarily about how many points Chaney gets. It's about how efficient he is in his scoring. Like he's a guy that if he's going to take 5 or 6 shots, then he needs to make 4 or 5 of those, right? If he's going to only take 3 shots, he needs to make 2 of them. He can't be a guy that's going to take 6 or 7 shots and only have 1 make because of the way that he shoots the ball. He usually is only taking open threes, and he usually is only taking those mid-range shots or close to the lane shots. So he needs to make a high amount of those. If he's going to take multiple threes, he needs to knock down multiple threes, right? If he's going to be taking a lot of his shots around the paint, he needs to shoot a healthy percentage of those. So the way that Chaney scores, it needs to be efficient in the way that he goes about it, and he just needs to increase that efficiency in this game for sure. Professor Vader says, hope we can stop the lazy passes. This team will make you pay for it. Agreed with that. Carter Phillips says Auburn is not moving on until Dillon gets active. He's been slow to react offensively and defensively, especially on the boards. I agree that Dillon Cardwell has been a little slower on the offensive end for sure on his reaction time. He just hasn't looked clean in his operation. Dillon Cardwell is a glue guy, and he's a crucial piece. And then again, in a game like this that fits the physicality that Dillon Cardwell likes to play with, he needs to be active in this game. Let's see here. Why says, ask JJ, was Howard only in warm-up shirt yesterday? Most players who aren't anticipating checking in will keep their warm-up shirt on over their jersey. So if you're saying he didn't have a jersey on underneath it, then I don't know if that's a thing. But yeah, if he's not checking, and he got in the game yesterday, so he actually did check into the game. So I don't know. What are the fan numbers? Still a lot of people trickling in. The ugly orange does seem to be the higher number in here right now. It's hard to really tell. There's a lot of people who aren't in fan colors who they are representing. But if you're talking about people relative to other folks, I would say that, probably 60-40 in favor of Tennessee right now. There's a smattering of Florida and Bama fans in here as well, because of course these games are going to be back to back today. But I mean, I'm going to expect that Tennessee fans are going to be the higher percentage just based upon the games earlier this week. Super chat from Heavy. Appreciate you very much for this over-under for Cardwell dunks in this game. I hope that number is 15, Heavy, but the over-under is probably going to be 1.5. So I'm anticipating 2 dunks for him, so he get the over there. Let's see here. Ben jumps in and says, Auburn has played better in neutral and away games, so I'm fine with there being more UT fans. Yeah, Auburn has definitely embraced the role of the villain in the building. And so, hopefully today they continue to embrace that role and step up to the challenge, because it's absolutely a challenge. Despite Auburn being favored by Vegas and the number 1 seed, I still think that Auburn feels like they are the underdogs in this game, and people are doubting them a lot. The Auburn Tigers are coming back out for their second round of warm-ups here to a pretty good fan ovation and not a lot of boos. So a good Auburn contingent in here. It's not loud, so we'll see how it goes when Tennessee exits and re-enters here. But we are about 17, just under 18 minutes from the scheduled tip-off of this game. So we'll see how that progresses. Heavy with another great super chat here. Over under of Heavy drinks this game. I don't know, man. I think this is going to be you might as well just go ahead and just keep the bottle close, brother. Keep the bottle close. That's all I'm saying. If it were me, I just would have it on tap or something. But yeah. All right, so I am about 8 minutes from signing off here. Again, in about 8 minutes, the guys over at the Up Tempo podcast will be having your watch party. So make sure you tap in over there with Dustin. He is going to be going live during the game, so you can continue coverage of this game on the War Rapport Pod Network with the guys over at the Up Tempo podcast. This game's going to be a big one. It's in terms of just kind of perception, right? Auburn, win or lose, needs to look competitive in this game in order for people to just stop being so down on Auburn right now. And that includes Auburn fans. Auburn fans are really down on Auburn for a lot of reasons, as if other teams aren't having their struggles right now. Now teams are looking good, right? Tennessee looked really good versus Kentucky, even though that was a hobbled Kentucky. Bama looked good versus Kentucky, even though that was a hobbled Kentucky team. Tennessee looked good at points versus Missouri, but that Missouri team continued to fight back in that game. Ultimately, Tennessee was too much for them. I mean, golly, I keep saying it wrong. Florida looked good in that game. And I'm sitting here watching Tennessee warm up and saying Tennessee out loud. But Florida looked good at points in that game versus Missouri, even though Missouri made it tough for them at points as well. So got to continue to play good basketball and get people back in your good graces just to have them believing again. Nina says that she's not sure she'll be able to watch this game. I understood. Heavy with another super chat here for luck. Hey, man, I think this is the magic number. Hopefully Auburn wins by every point that you super chatted. That's what I'm hoping for. So you've given $15 in super chats. Hopefully it's a 15-point win for Auburn. Jay Chambers wants another shot at Florida, so we need to advance to the finals. Already predicting a Florida victory over Bama today. Deet says our standard is higher, and that's a great feeling. Auburn fans complain when the standard is low. It's just a thing that I think that they've gotten conditioned to complain about everything. But definitely, people expect Auburn to play well, and when they're not beating the crap out of every team, then all of a sudden Auburn's an awful team that won't do anything. So just kind of how it is. Ben Blower said Duke almost blew it against UNC. I don't see the same talk about them peaking too early. Well, Duke had a couple of players that were hurt, including Cooper Flagg. But yeah, to your point, when Janai Broome was hurt, nobody gave any graces to Auburn about that. So it is what it is. Ephesians says Auburn will need to make 8 or more threes to win this one, I believe. I think that's a good number for Auburn to be able to do. They need to shoot a healthy percentage. I think the percentage of the 3-point shots or that they shoot from three is more important than how many they make. So if they make 8, then they probably need to only take about 20, right? So I think that's a healthy percentage for Auburn. I think the best thing for Auburn is going to be efficiency on offense and the quality of shots that they're taking, and then making quality shots when they have them available to them. Let's see. Dan says, read an article this morning criticizing Auburn's play against what the author described as a cupcake game against Ole Miss. Who would describe Ole Miss as an easy opponent? Yeah, I think I know what article you're talking about, and it is what it is. Again, Auburn is damned if they do, damned if they don't. Winning isn't enough for people for Auburn. They've got to beat people down because they've had so much hype as this juggernaut of a team. But Auburn just continues to churn out dubs, and that's really all that matters this time of year, right? Auburn's looking to win 10 more games. They're looking to win 8 more games right now. A game today, a game tomorrow, and then 6 more in the tournament. And that's all Auburn needs to focus on is how do we win 8 more games. Dietz says 3-point percentage. I want to see a solid game from Kelly. Like to see him get hot from deep. Yes, for sure. Super chat here from Nina says, I think we have a better, I think maybe chance for the most part. We haven't played those teams, so the SEC feels more physical conference. Definitely a more physical conference. So Auburn's got to do a better job today of dealing with that physicality and not letting a Texas A&M type game happen where they're getting beat up, particularly on the boards in this game. Again, we are about 12. They're a little under 13 minutes from the scheduled tip-off here inside of Bridgestone Arena. Both teams out here warming up right now. And hopefully we get to see a good game with a good guy. Sorry if you're a Tennessee fan watching this, come out with a victory in this one, because I'm definitely looking forward to that. Chess Rockwell says high 3-point percentage and free throws. Free throws, I mentioned this earlier, got to be a good percentage for Auburn. I think you need to shoot right around 75, 76%. But it'd be nice for them to shoot higher than that. But getting to the free throw line and preventing Tennessee from getting a bunch of free throws, I think is going to be an important thing, right? Like, the physicality is going to be there. How can you make sure that you're embracing the contact and not running from it, and forcing the referees to make calls against Tennessee and their tough physical defense? All right, y'all. Again, the Uptempo podcast is going to have your game day stuff, and they are about 2 minutes from starting over there. I am going to get out of here so we can focus on what's going on here. I'll be available on Twitter with you guys, so make sure that you tap in over there with me. Again, this is brought to you by the folks over at BetUS. Head to BetUS TV if you want to play some last-minute bets on this game. They've got all the details on what's going to be good for that and the other games here in the SEC tournament. Make sure you check out the folks at Underdog Fantasy and get your projections in for today's game. There's some good ones that are out there available for you. I will be back with our post-game reaction here live from Bridgestone Arena. But until then, and as always, War Eagle.